Ms. Maureen Mappletoft, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to ask a series of questions back and forth in no particular order. If I direct a question to you, I'd ask you to answer it. If I direct the question to somebody other than you, I'd ask you to let them answer it. When I'm done asking the questions that I think I need the answer to, the plaintiff will have the opportunity to add additional testimony or documents to his case if he thinks it's necessary or appropriate. And when he's done, the defendant has the same chance to complete her defense with additional documents or testimony if necessary. If the defendant brings up something new in her segment, then the plaintiff would have the chance to respond to that which was brought up new. Then it's back to me and I'll issue a judgment. The first question I'm going to ask is of you, Ms. Mappletoft. You have been sued for a sum of money $1,000 even. So you've been sued for $1,000. Is there any portion of this that you acknowledge you owe?
No.
Mr. Searles, how did you get to the figure $1,000?
It's actually 1,010. So I went and got
on the complaint that you filed as 1,000.
No, it was 1,010.
I doubt it.
I'm looking at it, sir. It's 1,000. But the $10 isn't going to be a big deal.
No, it's a moot point. I went and got an estimate for the damage. And it's, my deductible is $1,000. And I'm not.
That's your deductible.
Correct.
Now, as I have read the pleadings, it appears that you were going to a friend's cottage on Lake Huron that shared a driveway with another friend, and the two friends are the two neighbors are friends. And that you went to the neighbors. There was a person at the neighbor's place, that being the defendant, and you spoke with her from within your vehicle. She was out of hers, and out of her vehicle came a dog, and the dog got on the side of your car with the feet and scratched the paint. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's it in general, yes.
Ms. Mappletoft, is there any portion of that you would dispute?
Absolutely. I don't know if you received my letter or not. I delineated a lot of things that
What would you change in that scenario?
Okay. Well, first of all, my dogs were not in the car, and he proceeded onto my sister's property, and I put up my hands to say, stop, don't come any further. And I put in my letter that my sister had been burglarized and she was very afraid of anybody coming, and I was getting ready to leave. So I was extremely anxious about who these people were. I didn't know Mr. Searles at all. I didn't know the relative he was with. And I asked him to stop. And then I said, please let me put my dogs up in the car. And he continued to proceed further onto my sister's property and started talking. And
did you put the dog or dogs back into your car?
I couldn't. He kept talking and talking. I said, hang on. I kept saying, hang on a minute. Let me put my dogs in the car.
How did his
Then he started to
stop you from doing whatever you wanted to do?
Yeah. And I was very.
Oh, I said how?
How?
How does him talking stop you from taking care of your dog?
Well, he kept talking, and then he was going to get out of the car. He started exiting the car. Well, first of all, I was very afraid he was going to run my dogs over when he started proceeding like that. So I kept calling, halt, halt. So I was in the middle of trying to get him to stop because I was concerned about my dog's safety and get them in the car. But he just kept talking and coming forward. Then he started to get out of the car, and I felt very threatened. And so I did say, don't get out of the car. My dog is dangerous. Don't get out of the car, because I felt threatened by what is going on here. And so he did get back in the car at that point, and I finally was able to get my dogs back up in the car. But in the middle of trying to get him to stop and not knowing who he was and trying to get my dogs in the car and make sure they were safe, it was kind of a scramble there, and that couple of minutes.
How did you lose control of the dogs?
Well, the dogs, seeing a stranger coming up, I just, when you're up there up north, I don't leash them. I get them outside. I was in the middle of locking my sister's door up, and she had been burglarized and felt very threatened. So I was very worried about getting everything right.
Was she there?
Pardon me?
Was your sister there?
No, she had me.
Her feelings had nothing to do with what happened.
No, but she had me watching the house. So I was the one, I don't know if you saw in the letter, I was the one that was kind of watching over the house for her while she was out of town. So she was very concerned about me closing all the windows properly and taking care of everything. And she was worried that these burglars were going to come back. They were actually contractors who had burglarized her home. And she was worried they were going to come back because they left windows open. So I was just really concentrated on trying to secure the home. And I let the dogs out as I was locking the door, and I was going to
The question I asked you, ma'am, before you started. Question I asked you is, how did you lose control of your dogs?
Well, I didn't lose control of my dogs. They were not on a leash because I was getting ready to put them literally, I was getting ready to put them in the car as this car drove up. I was getting them out into the car. It was just a terrible confluence of bad timing.
What time of day was this?
12 o'clock, 12:05.
Noon? Noon or midnight?
Oh, I'm sorry, noon.
Are you denying that the vehicle was scratched?
I have no knowledge of the vehicle being scratched whatsoever. He claims in his narrative that I said that my dog wasn't responsible for scratching his vehicle. I never said that because I had no knowledge of my dog scratching his vehicle.
Now, you denied responsibility here.
Yes.
What is the basis of that denial?
That my dogs, I have no evidence that my dog did anything to his car.
Did you see the dogs get up on the car?
There was one quick moment where my dog jumped up and I grabbed him. Now, Mr. Searles is claiming that I did nothing to get my dog off the car, but when he was starting to get out of the car, my dog jumped at the door and I immediately grabbed him. And then Mr. Searles said, "Oh no, the dog is going to scratch my car." And I said, "I told you not to come any closer." And that's when I finally got my dog in the car. He did not get out of the car, but I reiterated that I had told him not to proceed any closer, and he had kept coming onto the property and trespassing.
So somebody driving down a driveway is trespassing?
Well, according to my insurance company, they said that my sister could file a claim. And I'm not a lawyer, but they told me she could file a claim for him entering the property when he was told to stop and not come onto the property. Good. I can just tell you what my insurance company informed me. They also told me he should have come back when he realized the damage and followed proper protocol, which would have been calling the police, showing me the damage.
After you told him not to be there?
Well, he could have come up. Like if he had stopped at the neighbor's property, then he wouldn't have been anywhere near the dogs. If he hadn't come onto and I could easily walk up. It's like he sent a letter. I just got it yesterday with a picture. They're in a Y and then they have a common straight driveway and then it veers off. If he had stopped at the Y where all of the UPS trucks and stuff turn around, there's no gate there. He could have stopped there. And he could have called me from his window, and then he would not have been on my sister's property. It was so close, I could have walked up to the window then and spoken to him off of my sister's property, where I would not have felt as threatened by him the way he kept proceeding onto her property. So it would have been very simple for him to stop before the Y, yell out his window. I would have heard him.
How
your
big is
dog
the,
scratched
how
my,
extensive is the distance between the Y of the driveway and where he stopped and spoke with you?
well within hearing distance. I mean, I walk my dogs. I lived there for a while during COVID. I walked my dogs up to that area.
Are you
It's
talking
very
a
close.
car length? Are you talking 10 car lengths?
Well, let's see, the whole length, I think I wrote it in my letter, is like 500 feet in off of 23. But once you get up to that Y, I would say it's maybe 4 car lengths, 3 or 4. And then the Y cuts off and then it follows up to get to the gate of the neighbors. And it's a good place to turn around. So he could have originally stopped there and told me he was looking for the neighbor without coming up into my sister's driveway and then proceeding when I put my hands up and continuing to come.
Talking about a driveway that both parties own.
Only that part of it where it veers off into a Y. So he could have easily stopped at the Y, which would have been I can't remember the term for it when it's shared driveway.
Easement.
Easement, thank you. And he could have easily talked to me from there. And by that time I would have had I had the dogs in the car finally. When I told him, please let me put the dogs in the car, I told you not to get out of the car and I told you not to come any further.
But you had warned him about the dogs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I warned him not to come any closer and not to get out of the car because my dog is very protective. He might have bit him. I didn't know. And
So therefore, if he would have stopped his car at the Y and walked down the driveway, then he would have been in greater danger with your dog.
he didn't have to walk down the driveway. He didn't have to come on the property at all. The driveway.
Somebody is going to go to a house to knock on the door to ask the owner a question. Is it unusual that they drive down the driveway?
Okay, try to picture me up there all alone in the wilderness. My sister is worried about burglars.
That has nothing to do with what he knows when he's driving to a house to ask a question of the owner.
But why, when I asked him not to proceed any further, why do I not have a right to do that?
It's not your property. The other thing is, he only went 4 or 5 car lengths.
But the thing is, he was still on her property. I felt very threatened, Your Honor.
How do your feelings interact with your animals doing damage to private property?
Well, first of all, we haven't established that my animals did any damage
Plaintiff
whatsoever.
has alleged that.
But how do we know this?
Well, we've heard. And he told you before, you said that the dog was going to scratch his car if he jumped up on the car. You said that. He had already
No, I
brought
never said that.
possibility.
No,
Yes,
no,
you
I
did.
never said that.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
You said that he was concerned that the dogs were going to scratch his car.
No. The dog went to go for the door. I can't even swear that the dog touched the door, honestly. And he said, oh no, my dog's going to scratch the car.
That's what I just said.
And I said, I told you not to come any closer. I told you to stay I mean, can you imagine? I'm worried he's going to run over the dogs. He wouldn't stop. He kept on coming.
Yeah, we're talking 4 car lengths on a driveway.
But the dogs were running around in the driveway barking at him and he
Could
kept
they be?
coming. Pardon me?
First question I asked you was how did you lose control of the dogs?
I don't understand your question. What do you mean? How did I lose control of them? They were barking
Couldn't
at
stop your dogs from, if he got out of the car, you couldn't have stopped them from biting him. And you couldn't stop them from jumping up on the car.
I had 2 dogs. I'm trying to grab them as he's talking to me. And
the need to grab them means you had lost control and you needed to regain control by grabbing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess in your definition, okay.
There's no sign. I'm not aware of any signage there that says no trespassing beyond the driveway. Do cars turn around in driveways all the time? Right? A driveway is for cars. And if someone intends to go to a house and see if the owner can answer a question, that's not trespassing to just go to a house and intend to ring the doorbell, knock on the door. That's not trespassing.
Don't you think when I warned him not to come any closer, because,
Your warning didn't make an excuse for your dog's damaging his property.
but how do we know the dog damaged his property?
Well, why, how do we know you gave him a warning?
How do we know any of this? I mean,
This is what a trial is for, man.
he is accusing my dog of damaging his car. I don't believe that this is what happened.
What do you think happened?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know Mr. Searles very well. I don't know what happened. I wish that he had, as I said, okay, even if he didn't want to come back on the property, okay, let's just say for a minute that he did not feel safe coming back on my property, even though I had the dog safely put in the car, or he didn't want to just drive up to his friend's property. My sister is the girlfriend of his good friend he was looking for. Okay. All he had to do, okay, was contact his friend, have my sister call me, discuss the issue with me, exchange license and information together, and go through the proper channels of contacting our insurance companies. What he did was then again come over, slap down this estimate out of the blue. He walked into my sister's house several weeks later, said, "Do you know who I am?" Again, and I thought in a threatening fashion, slapped down this estimate and said, "This is what your dog did to my car." And I said, "What do you, I mean, I don't have any knowledge of this whatsoever." It just was completely out of the blue. He could have easily contacted me in those several weeks, easily contacted me.
What difference does it make if he contacted you several weeks before, or when he contacted you when he brought the stuff?
Because because he was demanding I give him $1,000 right there.
Did you look at his car?
He didn't have his car with him. He didn't offer to show me his car. There was no offer to show me any damage whatsoever.
Mr. Searles, when you brought the documents over to the house, where was your car?
In Indiana, sir. I rode my motorcycle.
How did you
Did
know?
bring some pictures to show her?
I didn't think to take the pictures to her, if I may speak, on respect to how I delivered the papers, the estimate.
Go ahead.
So my friend, he finally contacted me after his girlfriend told him to get a hold of me, and we talked, and I had no intention of getting him mixed up with it. But in our conversation, I said, he said, "Oh, I heard you met Maureen." I said, "Well, I did." And then I told him the story. And at that point, he tells me, "Send me the estimate and I'll make sure that she gets it." And we'd already planned on getting together in a couple of weeks. I said, "Okay, I can do that." So once I got the estimate, I forwarded it to him. I get there. "Hey, did you give her the estimate?" "No, we decided." And his girlfriend, Megan, she lives with him. Neither one of them wanted to deliver the estimate to Maureen they didn't want to have to deal with the drama. So we talked. And so the next day, Saturday morning, we're sitting around drinking coffee. And I said, "Well, how about if one of you come with me when I take it over to her?" Nope, they didn't want to do that either. I was 100% on my own. So I walked down the 100 yards his driveway and roughly another 100 yards up to Megan's door, knock on the door. Maureen's son answers the door, and Megan's daughter is there. And there were two dogs, and the dog that jumped up on my car was there, but it didn't come across as aggressive. It was doing what my wife and I always called about our dog, the happy dance. Said to her son, "I need to talk to your mom." He said, "She's out on the back deck." So I walk out to the back deck, and she surely is on the back deck. And I said, "Hi, Maureen, do you recognize me?" And she kind of had a big smile on her face, kind of, but not really. I said, "Well, I'm the guy whose car your dog scratched." And I had my project manager voice on. I had my work, professional attitude on. I said, "Well, your dog scratched my car pretty good." And she knew the day that it scratched it, because I didn't say, "Oh no, your dog," if I may excuse the court here, but I said, "God damn it, your dog just scratched my car." And I said it pretty much like that. And she just had this blank look on her face. I said, you need to pay for that. We just got this. And so fast forwarding back. So I said, well, here's the estimate. I would like you to pay for it. You'll take care of it. And that's when she started throwing profanities at me. I mean, she's telling me to get out of her house and to get away from her, and that she wasn't going to pay for the damage because it was my fault. And I'm like, okay. So I laid the estimate down. I said, here it is. And then I went back to my friend's house, and they're kind of giggling and go, how'd it go? I said, about as well as you could have expected. And then we went on. And that was but that wasn't the end of it. I saw Miss Mapletoft later that evening also at a bonfire party. So it wasn't like, if she was so afraid of me, why did she come over to the bonfire party? I'm confused. And all I wanted was to be made whole.
You have photographs of the vehicle?
I do not. Unfortunately, I'm at work. I don't have that information with me.
Swing and a miss, and Ruiz with the fastball strikes out Pham.
Do you have pictures at all?
I don't know if my wife took any or not. I believe we have pictures, but just I don't have them on it's actually my wife's vehicle, and she handled all of that. I was responsible for it when I was driving it. And so, I mean, that was actually the first time I had driven that vehicle. And I was pulling, excuse me?
What kind of car is it?
It is a 22 Volkswagen Atlas with the towing package.
How would you describe the scratches in terms of depth, width, and length?
So the length, it started right at the sill, on the exterior sill. And if I may add, sir, the dog, when it jumped up on the car, it wasn't in an aggressive manner. Again, it was oh no, we've got people here, yay, kind of jump up. And he wanted, he wanted some attention like dogs do. And it wasn't an aggressive nature. So the scratch starts right about, and there's you could see the main claw right about midway of the sill, halfway between the back pillar and the front pillar. And that one went right down to the primer, and the other two aren't quite as wide, but they still, and then it went down maybe quarter to halfway down the panel.
The estimate is $1,010.90, I believe.
Yes, sir.
You haven't fixed it since.
Well, it's going in. The gentleman that is going to do the repair was booked solid, so it's going in at the end of this month.
So if you were to take pictures of it now, would they accurately indicate the way it looked then?
Yes, 100% yes.
Do you have more you wish to add to your case?
Nothing that the narrative didn't address. Like I said, I pulled in, my friend's gate was locked, and I didn't know Miss Mapletoft was there. And actually, just before when you go past the split, the driveway, the easement still makes kind of a curve. It still kind of curves off to the right. So I didn't see her till I got maybe 10 or 15 yards into her sister's driveway. And that's when she walked towards me, and she kind of had her hand up, but I didn't know what she was saying. And that's when and she approached my vehicle. I rolled my window down, introduced myself, asked about Mark. Couldn't, he's in Colorado. Well, I know that, but I couldn't get a hold of him. Can you get a message to him? He's in Colorado. I know that. And the dog and I didn't see any dogs. There were no dogs in the yard. And somewhere in that time, she mentioned that she had an aggressive dog. I went, okay. And I had no intention of had no reason to get out of the vehicle. And what my intent was, without knowing that she was there, I was going to pull up into Megan's driveway and just do a kind of a easy turn, because there was nowhere to turn around in that driveway pulling a boat. It's weeds and ditch and trees on both sides. Just not enough room. That's why I backed all the way out to the road. That I don't really have anything else to offer other than what was in my narrative.
Melodramatic, is there more you wish to add?
Yes. So much of the things he just said are not, have not been explained in a way that was explained to me. My sister has informed me that Mark, her boyfriend, never even informed her of any of this.
That's really not part of what we're going to do.
Relevant. Okay. Well, I guess I'm just trying to establish that he's saying my dog was in the car. I mean, there's a lot of things he's saying that are incorrect. My dog is a very fearful, aggressive dog. I'd be happy to get the vet to vouch for me on that. He was felt very threatened. So if he jumped up, I was right there and grabbed him right off. And I really, without pictures, I find it very striking that if this in fact happened, that he wouldn't bring pictures to this meeting. There's just so many things that are not making sense. I know he asked his friend to go and present. The story I got was he asked his friend, my sister's boyfriend, to present this estimate to me without being there. And he said, no, I don't want to get involved. And my sister, nobody told my sister what was going on. But I know that's not relevant, but I'm just saying there are so many aspects of this story that just don't add up to me, you know?
Well, you know that the dog got up on the side of the car.
A split second. I mean, and I don't even know if the dog touched it, honestly.
So what I'm going to do now is, Mr. Sirlis, I want to see pictures. And the pictures that you send to the court of the car, contemporaneously with sending them to the court, you should send a set to Ms. Mapletoft. So the court and the defendant should get them at about the same time. And
Do I send the pictures to the clerk and then they forward them?
The court.
All right. And can the
Oops.
clerk forward them to Miss Mapletoft?
No, you need to send them to her.
Oh, that was the other thing. I tried to send him my letter and he gave the wrong address to the court. So he never received my narrative.
There was a change in address, I think.
Can I ask you
The map
something?
he sent.
He sent a map of their property, but then he highlighted it incorrectly, where the gate is, but it doesn't matter because you're saying it doesn't matter if he went on her property or not. So I guess
somebody drives on a driveway.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's not trespassing.
Okay.
Now, there's no signs here saying no trespassing or anything, is it?
Yeah, I think it's because I asked him to stop. I thought he would respect my wishes, here I am, this woman alone, that I didn't want two strange men coming any closer. And I was afraid they were going to hit my dogs, who were in fact on the driveway. I was right getting ready to put them in the car when this car drove up. It was just a really bad situation of timing. But I would like to ask you something if I could.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't in a situation like this, normally we exchange insurance information and not go to court and follow the procedure of going through our insurance company, so we would never have had to go through all of this, as he puts it, drama?
Well, the procedures that get to bring things to court are not one of the factors as to what caused the issue. So we have no reason to address anything that occurred after this, because the only thing we're concerned about here is what happened and the damages, if any, that were caused thereby.
But how do we know?
Now, if you want to make a claim with your insurance company now.
Me?
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be the one that's making the claim because he's the one with the damage?
You've got liability insurance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm telling you to file a claim with your insurance company.
Okay.
But this, I don't think, qualifies as a car crash. But that's subject to debate. But the bottom line here is that the actions that occurred after the events in question don't change what the events in question were. And
how do we know that?
A different way of handling it? Sure.
How do we know that this car wasn't pre-scratched? He was up according to him, when he was talking to me, partying with friends. He had a bandage wrapped around his thumb. He said he had gotten a drinking accident. How do I know? How do we know that this didn't occur when he was driving through some trees in the woods up there? How do we know that my dog did this alleged damage?
Well, if you're driving through the woods and you have scratches on the car, the scratches are going to not be vertical.
Okay, so that would be really an important piece of information, right?
That's why I've asked for the pictures.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So if they're not vertical, then that would say something. Okay.
Tell me something, I think.
How do I know he's not going to go now and put vertical scratches because he wants to get his car fixed?
Well, you're not the trier of fact, I am.
I know, but you know what I mean?
Credibility is a factor in any trial.
Yeah.
And, let's see the pictures and I will issue a judgment after the pictures.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.